And good morning world. It is Tuesday the 6th of November 2018. I'm in Singapore where it's 5 to 9 in the morning. It's 5 to 1 in the morning in the UK and it's 5 to 8 in the evening on the east coast of America the day before, Monday the 5th of November. As you can see, I'm in Singapore, just flown in, had one night's sleep. I've left Anonymous at home, but I've got a new friend to play with, Boney. He'll be around for this coming week. I'm in Singapore doing readings. As I speak, I've got 34 readings to do over the coming week. I have 15 spare slots, mainly on Wednesday and Thursday, but from Wednesday onwards. So if you're in Singapore or know anyone who is, who wants to have a personal face-to-face recorded at the same time, reading with me, then drop me an email at the normal channels, steve@stevejudd.com. Now, enough of the self-promotion. Let's talk about the astrology. In 40 hours from now, it is the new moon. It's the new moon at about, it's the middle of Scorpio, 15, 16 degrees of Scorpio. We're coming up to Samhain. It's the middle of Scorpio. I know that most people consider Samhain to be the same time as Halloween on October the 31st. I consider Samhain to be the halfway point between equinox and solstice, which to me means around this time. The ancient Celts would have Samhain and Beltane as the start of the only two seasons they would adhere to. This new moon in Scorpio. The new moon itself is relatively innocuous. Yes, we're approaching a Mercury retrograde, we're in a Venus retrograde, but the new moon is not aspecting Mercury or Venus, neither is it aspecting Mars or Jupiter. It's making very nice weak aspects to Saturn. It's not touching Uranus. It's in a lovely trine to Uranus and a nice approaching sextile to Pluto. So in all ways it's a beneficial new moon. And anybody who's born on this day, November the 5th, 6th, or on the opposite time around May the 5th or 6th, is in for a pretty good time on this one. It's not so much the effects of the new moon, it's more that the effects of the horoscope of the new moon that's much more important. The horoscope of the new moon has an exact inconjunction from Jupiter to Uranus. An inconjunction is 150 degrees, sometimes called a quincunx. It's what I describe as the itch you can't scratch. It's a niggle, it's a frustration, it's a problem that's too big to be ignored, but too small to be sorted out. So when I call it the itch you can't scratch, that's probably a pretty good description. Thing is, inconjunctions happen pretty commonly, especially with the movement of the faster inner planets. But when you get Jupiter and Uranus in conjunct, there's a problem, especially as this in conjunction is going to be with Uranus at something like 29 degrees 50 of Aries and Jupiter at 29:50 of Scorpio, both in the very, very last minutes of the last degree of their respective signs. Jupiter will move sign into Sagittarius in a couple of days. Uranus is just moving backwards into Aries. In fact, as I record, it is still in Taurus. It will nip back into Aries in the next 24 hours. The new moon itself is in about 40 hours time. It's around 1500, 1600 UK time tomorrow on the 7th. And in conjunction from Jupiter to Uranus, Jupiter's basic principle is that of truth, transparency, honesty, philosophy, has a lot to do with Sagittarius, its ruling sign. Jupiter's over the top, it's larger than life, and it promises more than it delivers, but it always delivers something. Uranus's principle is that of change, unequivocal change, whether it be disruptive, chaotic, dramatic, sudden and unpredictable, or whether it be stimulating, innovative, original, exciting and fun. Normally Jupiter and Uranus get on quite well. In mythology, they're grandfather and grandson, and they don't normally have any problems with each other. They complement each other. Uranus likes Jupiter's principle of growth and expansion, and Jupiter gets on quite well with Uranus's principle of change and stimulus. But in conjunction, Jupiter in Scorpio in conjunct Uranus seems that I'm not a fan of Jupiter in Scorpio by transit, In a natal chart, that's a different story. But in Scorpio, Jupiter's always going to be wanting to dig deep and bring up all the secrets, and it's going to bring up all the narcissistic stuff and all the unhealthy, deep, hidden stuff, the racism, the sexism, the misogyny, the cultural inappropriation. It's going to bring up all the dark stuff that nobody really wants to look at and talk about. And in conjunct Uranus, that's going to create problems. Uranus at the very end of Aries is once again reverting back into Aries for the next 3 or 4 months, for the last time, incidentally, in 77, 78 years. And here there's going to be a lot more attention paid to things around the rights of the individual, human rights, individual freedoms. And as anybody born in the last 7 years or is older than 77 years old will know, Uranus in Aries, they don't do orders. They've never done orders. They never will do orders. Uranus in Aries is very self-determined, big time. When Uranus in Aries is in conjunct Jupiter and Scorpio, it's as if the rights of the individual will take precedence over the collective rights. And Uranus is going to say, I don't care about the secrets. We're going to bring it out into the open and we're going to speak the truth even if it hurts. Whereas Jupiter and Scorpio is going, actually, yeah, okay, but let's at the same time bring up all the dirt and expose all the secrets and lies. Now, this is happening at a really pivotal time in the world. It's happening at a time where Britain is about 4 months away from leaving Europe, where there's been major political unrest and change in a number of countries in South America, especially Brazil, where Australia is going through yet another catharsis at the political level, and of course with the midterm elections in America. Now, I'm going to incur the wrath of many of you, and I'm probably not, I will allow comments, but I'm going to censor the comments on this video because I am going to talk about the American president now, something I don't normally like to do because I know that I'm just going to get trolled. Or else I'm going to attract a lot of negative comments. I am not going to cast any opinion on the American election or the American president. I'm merely going to state the astrological facts. Donald Trump's horoscope, a week ago, when I heard that he was going to be doing all of this massive touring around the country, doing rally after rally, sometimes 2 or even 3 rallies a day over the next week, I looked at his chart and I thought, blimey, this guy's got Mars on the ascendant, right at the very end of Leo, and now Jupiter's right at the end of Scorpio, squaring his Mars on the ascendant. And I thought, well, the negative side of this is that Jupiter is going to exaggerate and amplify his Mars on the ascendant in Leo, and it's possibly going to burn him out, and I'm a bit worried about his heart. The neutral side of this is that I thought, okay, it's going to amplify his natural bombasticness, and the positive side of this, I thought, is that, well, if he stayed at home and did nothing, he probably would have a blooming heart attack, but by getting out and using his energy, then at least he's using it and it's not using him. So yeah, I do think that with Jupiter really amplifying his chart, that his antics over the last week have probably been what I as an astrologer would have advised him to do. Get out there and use your energy so that it doesn't use you. Because when you don't use energy, and there's plenty of it around, that's when you get illnesses, heart attacks, bumps, bangs, bruises, broken bones, depending on the nature of the planet. It's also worthy of note that despite Jupiter squaring his Mars on his ascendant, Uranus retrograde back into Aries is also trining his Mars on the ascendant. So his physical energy levels seem very high at the moment. However, project this just a little bit further down the road. Jupiter's going to move into Sagittarius in a couple of days' time. And towards the end of February, Jupiter's going to stand still around 20 to 24 degrees of Sagittarius for a couple of months. Donald Trump was born with the Sun at, I think, 21, 22 degrees of Gemini and the Moon at 20, 21 degrees of Sagittarius. He was born on the full moon. And with Jupiter standing still on top of his Sun, opposite his Sun and on his Moon, over the period of late February on and off through to September of next year, it does seem as if his energy levels are going to accelerate, but also his natural verbosity is also going to accelerate. And I do expect even bigger things to be developing around Donald Trump PLC over the period of late February onwards. At the moment, with the American midterms, with Jupiter in conjunct Uranus, there's a great deal of the attacks by people on other people in the name of politics is so vitriolic, abusive, violent and degrading that it makes the rest of the world look at America and think, oh, what are you doing to yourselves? It seems that every step America takes at the moment to try and heal itself is making situations worse. And in all of my years of watching America, I've never ever seen a country so dichotomized as I am at the moment. It does seem as if America is in a really dangerous state. But I've seen similar before, both in the UK and with other countries, and that's the advantage of being old, yeah, I know. And it seems that things do go in cycles, and the harder it is now, the better it will be in the future. So out of this will come a common sense candidate. There has to be someone out there who eventually will stand, who will not represent either the left or the right, who will represent the centralist party, and that will be the trigger point for America in the future, I hope. We shall see. But at the moment, with this Jupiter in conjunct Uranus on the new moon chart at the time of the election, I suggest that there's so much vitriol, so much abuse being directed by one side towards another, regardless of one's politics, that the chance of any reconciliation or harmony in American politics over the coming year or two is unlikely. And it does seem that regardless of the result of the elections in the next couple of days, that with this new moon strongly trining Neptune and sextile Pluto, it does suggest to me that there's going to be an element of mystery, subversive forces at play, and that there's going to be a lot of disbelief and refutal and an unwillingness to accept the results, whatever they may be. So it does look a bit of a mess, to be honest. And we shall see what comes out of this. But I find it difficult that out of a country of 250 million people plus, that everyone can be so polarised one way or another. And I really bemoan the absence of a middle ground. Mind you, who am I to talk? In this country, there's exactly the same thing going on. It used to be about politics, now it's about Brexit, and I'm sure that once the inevitability of Brexit has occurred, it will revert back into politics, and the blame game will continue. Jupiter, this is the lasting conjunction from Jupiter to Uranus now for about 11 years. It's not going to happen again for a long time. In an individual chart, in your own personal chart, look at the very, very end of Scorpio in your horoscope. Look at the very end of Aries in your horoscope and ask yourself, am I going over the top? Am I undercutting, undermining, undervaluing, or overreaching, overspending, overstretching? It seems that this new moon, despite its lovely aspects to Neptune and Pluto, is a time where in the mundane, in the day-by-day level, things are only getting worse. At the larger level, the long term, the big picture, this new moon is seen as another cog in the wheel towards some type of rebalancing, and that will occur at some stage in the future. But the more the imbalancing is happening at the moment, the more the sort of sectarianism of the world is developing in the short to medium term, not only the greater the need to imbalance, but the greater the shock will be when the rebalancing finally happens. So it's new moon. New moon in Scorpio, in the middle of Scorpio, on the Beltane point, as we dive into the Northern Hemisphere, 3 months of darkness. Samhain point, not Beltane, Samhain point. And, well, it's new moon. So if it's happening in a nice place in your chart, Get out there and enjoy. This is a good time, even if you're living in America at the moment. And I just wish everybody a sense of balance and harmony, because that is what the world desperately needs right now. Okay, greetings from Singapore. I am going to be working my bits off for the next few days. If you're in Singapore and you want to have a reading with me, you know how to get hold of me. Steve@stevejudd.com. Take care, world. Bye.